Hello, and welcome back. Good evening or good afternoon, I think. Late afternoon, early good evening. And once again, our agenda is critical thinking and argument analysis. Mostly just common sense, interpreting a story, and then strengthening the argument or weakening the argument. That is, attacking the argument or supporting the argument. What we did yesterday, more of that continued, and I'm also assuming that if you're a course member, this work is being done on top of the pre-work, the pre-loaded work, the assignment that was given to everyone, and and mostly you're willing to just try out the questions on a common sense level, and we'll discuss them together. So the link for today is again the challenge for today was shared earlier, and I hope some of you have tried it out. Even if you haven't, don't worry about it. We will do most of the stuff on the screen anyway. You can find the file on the Telegram channel as well as the group. So please keep the file in front of you. Drop me a hello saying that the sound is clear, and then we'll kickstart the journey. Is the sound working? Is it audible? And have you guys found the sheet? Hi Aditi, have you tried out these 10 questions already? Ashutosh, I don't think you have joined my program. You're confusing somebody else's program for somebody else's. This program for some program for some. Okay, so let's start. This is question number 1. Try it out, read out the. Okay, have I shared the screen? No. Okay, wait, give me a second. So, question number 1 should be on your screen now. Try it out, read it. It's a super fun question, and these are like 10 questions which will make us look at the basics of argument from all possible directions. So, the agenda is just getting very familiar with the game. Watching yesterday's session would also help, and the fundamental video as well, but you can jump in the journey right now also. Yeah, I will tackle yesterday's remaining questions also. This is just getting started, and then we look at those questions as well. So, question number 1, the average life expectancy for the United States population as a whole is 73.9 years. but children born in Hawaii will live an average of 77 years, and those born in Louisiana 71.7 years. Okay, great. If a newlywed couple from Louisiana were to begin their family in Hawaii, therefore, their children would be expected to live longer than would be the case if the family remained in Louisiana. Fairly easy story, very easy data points. Average American age is 73.9 years. In Hawaii, the average age is 77, and in Louisiana, the average age is 71.7. And the story is saying that if you move to uh, if a couple from Louisiana moves to Hawaii, the child will live longer. So this is the kind of argument that we get in our day-to-day lives, and the question is, strengthen the conclusion drawn in the passage. That means you want to say, yes, if the couple moves from Louisiana to Hawaii, they will have a better life. So that's what you're supposed to do. You're supposed to strengthen the case that the couple should move to Hawaii. Which of the following options would give you that answer? 25% of somebody has given me option C. 25% of all Louisianans who move to Hawaii live longer than 77 years. But that still leaves 75% who do not, right? I do not have any data about them. So how do I know that this newlywed couple will belong to this 25%? Because it's a small percentage. Vibhuti says option B question mark. So I hope we understand why or what is the problem with C. If there were no better options, maybe I would look at it and say, okay, it is giving me that little bit of data that when Louisianans move to Hawaii, 25% of them do live longer. Maybe this couple will fall into that 25% category. But do I have a better choice in the options? No? Okay, so great. I think B is the right answer. Environmental factors leading to favor longevity are abundant in Hawaii and less numerous in Louisiana. So you want to support the idea that going to Hawaii is a good thing and the age of the child will increase. Giving me this piece of information that the factors that cause longevity are in the environment, and Hawaii has such an environment, and then I will say, yeah, it makes logical sense, because when I move to that environment, the benefits of that environment will be reflected on in the growth of the child, and he'll grow healthier and age more up to 77 or maybe higher as such. Are we okay with this? So option B, and the thing is, this question will make very good sense the moment I look at the very next question, which is the same question as earlier, same data, but this time the question is weaken the conclusion drawn in the passage. And that's why I think this is a very good starting point discussion, because in the same data point you're getting to strengthen the argument and then go on the other side and weaken the argument. So you just thought of right now supporting it, and you said, okay, the factors are environmental. Hawaii has great environment. Family will move there, experience the environment, and grow longer, more, bigger out of the experience, right? Now you're going on the opposite side. So look at the options. You know the story already, same story as before. Look at the options and tell me which one will weaken the conclusion that no, moving to Hawaii is not going to solve the problem. And it's going to be in any such game, this is easy level, but as the things get progressively cumbersome, paraphrasing the story. So in my every time look at the question, I know I'm talking about going to Hawaii or not going to Hawaii, right? So as long as that is clear, evaluating the choices should be fine. So question number 2, same data, weaken the conclusion, waiting for answers. Saurabh says C. Aditi says C. Vibhuti says C. Great, I think everybody got it, and it's a keep these two questions in a note somewhere, because it's a perfect example of strengthening and weakening and using the same data from both sides, right? And compare the answer options. The previous answer you said it's because of the environment, so moving has an advantage. But if you look at option C, and if it is true that the longevity of a person's life depends on the genetic factor, or genetically determined factors, right? That means it's in your blood, it's in your body. Changing the location from Louisiana and Havana, from Louisiana to Hawaii, is not going to change your genetic material unless that such an information is given to me. So therefore, and since it is not going to make any difference to longevity, why should I move to Hawaii? And therefore, moving to Hawaii becomes a weakened conclusion. Right? Yeah, so I think everybody got it. I shall move on. Also look at the other choices. Normally, at least in the recorded section, I prefer going through each choice and analyzing them like a argument challenge, right? Because each option is an opportunity to practice your reasoning skills as such. But for now, because everybody got the answer right, everybody has in from the sample survey of data given, I will assume that this is fine. Question number 3, I hope it's on the screen. I will read it and also see how long does it take to just read it. My contention is if you get comfortable with the language, if and when, it is the time taken for such a question is only as much as reading it, and you will see the logic mostly, provided you had food and you are comfortable and focused. A. So I think the sheet was given earlier and some people have the answers. I'm not saying they're cheating, but I'm saying that what happens is if you see the answer, you will feel that I have also figured it out. So a lot of times I share sheets with no answers also. Just first think on your own and then come to the right answer. So I'm assuming that the people are not doing that and people are genuinely coming up with A. So the story is that there is a company which is selling to elderly, right? And but the company is concerned that the income from the policies would not be sufficient to pay for the claims that would be made. Premium should be low to attract customers, but if the premium is low, how will you pay out? You have to understand how insurance works, right? Somebody buys an insurance, and if something goes wrong, you are supposed to pay them extra money, and they pay premiums on the insurance, basically covering a risk as such, right? So you have to come up with a strategy. So critical thinking and business management go hand in hand. Even yesterday we looked at an example where you essentially become a manager of a company. And I hope you went through all the choices, and because everybody has given me A, I will lock it down. Attracting middle-aged customers unlikely to submit claims for benefit for many years. Because let's say the policy is for 60 years or 65 years old, but you find a 40-year-old. He will have 20 years of paying the premium before the payout, before he gets ill or he dies or something happens, something goes wrong in his life. Whereas if I am a 60-year-old and I buy it today, by 65 I might need a payout because of old age, disease, etc. So this was the best possible choice. Somebody asked me a question on the group earlier saying that but the policy is for elderly, and my answer to that was middle-aged people will become elderly in a couple of, not in a couple of years, in a couple of dozen years or a dozen years as such, right? I also do want to stop at a couple of random choices just to see how wrong they are, right? or maybe there you might have felt trapped. Ensuring only those individuals who did not suffer any disease as children. And yes, it does seem okay that you're essentially looking at healthy people, and healthy people will not require the payout. But you had to stop and wonder that the healthiness of children and the disease of the elderly, is there a correlation, is there a connection between them? If somebody tells me for sure that the people who are healthy as children will not have the usual elderly diseases, then this option will become okay. But without that, it's not, right? So for every question, do evaluate the choices also and be very clear about why you are selecting or rejecting them. Saurabh says, why not C? Great, I live for this, why not C? Including a greater number of services in the policy than are included in other policies of lower cost. Boss, what are you doing? It's going in the opposite direction, right? Because the question is, how do I become more profitable? You are saying increase the number of services. The premium is already low. If you had added that increase the premium also and increase some services, I would have said okay, maybe. But so far you're not talking about increasing the premium, but you are saying that I'll increase the service. That means my payout will increase and I'll become less profitable. The question was, minimize the company's loss on the policy. Adding more services means more payout, therefore more losses. So I will assume we are done and I'll move on to the next question. Question number 4, increase in the level of high density lipoprotein in the human bloodstream lowers bloodstream cholesterol levels by increasing the body's capacity to rid itself of excess cholesterol. I would say slightly, like just a little above the usual complexity level, because a couple of technical words are coming in. So read such a statement or sentence twice. Levels of HDL in the bloodstream of some individuals are significantly increased by a program of regular exercise and weight reduction. Which of the following can be correctly inferred from these statements above? Inferred means concluded. Let me think about it while I'm getting some answers. High density lipoprotein, let's call it HDL, reduces the level of cholesterol. So more the HDL, less the cholesterol. That is one part of the story, right? It's almost like maths. The second part of the story is, why I keep saying almost like maths is because the maths as a language is so much more organized with very little ambiguity. So we want to use that as a reference for clarity, that do I understand the adding of these two ideas and coming up with the final conclusion. I'll explain this more. I will keep explaining this more and more. And the second statement says that if you exercise more, HDL goes more. So think of the maths now. This is exercising. Exercising goes up, HDL goes up. HDL goes up, cholesterol goes down. That means when exercise goes up, cholesterol goes down. That is the logic that is happening in the paragraph, right? So I think people have figured out D. I've got a few answers, so I will go for D. A program of regular exercise and weight reduction lowers cholesterol levels in the bloodstream of some individuals. Perfect, this is what I understood. Exercise will reduce the cholesterol. So what is the missing link? The missing link is HDL. Exercise will increase HDL. HDL increase will reduce cholesterol, right? I'm sure everybody can figure this out after a couple of rounds, if nothing else. Any other option choices? Why not C, guys? Let me ask you instead of waiting for you guys to ask me. Exercise and weight reduction are the most effective methods of lowering bloodstream cholesterol levels in human. So exercise lowering the cholesterol levels in human. So perfect, right? I just discussed that exercise lowers the cholesterol levels in human. So why not C as the answer? Tell me why. The nation wants to know. C, not because for some individuals only. Okay. Any other explanations? Yeah, you are almost right. When I say most effective, right? How did I come to this? I mean, I concluded that the maths of high exercise and low cholesterol, but where did I come up with this most effective? Because the paragraph surely is not saying anything about whether this is the only method. For all you know, sitting at home and lazing out extremely comfortably also reduces cholesterol, right? For some other reason. So how do I know whether this is the most effective method? Correct, right? So learn to evaluate these small changes in the language, because this is a trap kind of an option. Trap in terms of if somebody is in a hurry, they will say, oh, cholesterol, exercise, and they will say, yeah, right. But then a slower reading will reveal a little more, right? What about B? Why not B? Individuals who do not exercise regularly have a high risk of developing high levels of cholesterol. I just learned that exercising reduces cholesterol. So, can I not say that those individuals who do not exercise will have high cholesterol? Are you getting the game, right? So, you can play this game with any kind of information being presented to you. So, I want to, after a couple of more questions, I want to get into a real world critical thinking challenge also, because that's where the juice lies, right? Correct. So somebody said nothing mentioned about the humans who do not exercise, but just not, I mean, just the fact that it is not mentioned, ignore that. Think about the, can I deduce it mathematically? And that is why those first two chapters on deductive reasoning help a lot as well. From this, saying that exercises reduces cholesterol, can I say not exercising increases cholesterol? I do not know for sure. All I know is the relationship between exercise going up and cholesterol going down. Whether when there is no exercise, what happens to cholesterol? Maybe there are other factors which can reduce cholesterol, even if the individual is not working out. I have no data like that, right? So this, all of this put together, this approach, because as a subject, it's very simple. It's reason coming together to a conclusion. Can you find it, right? But the language variety, the subtleties of the language can create a little bit of complexity here and there. So learn to play the game from by just talking about it, thinking out loud, and argument, counter argument, this side, that side kind of a game. Let's try this question number 6. I like it. Please try out question number 6. Right. Aditi says E, Ravi says D. average normal infant born in the United States weighs between 12 and 14 pounds at the age of 3 months. Therefore, if a 3-month-old child weighs only 10 pounds, its weight gain has been below the United States average. Which of the following indicates a flaw in the reasoning above? It's actually not even a flaw in the reasoning, it's just a flaw in the word choice as such, which makes the reasoning wrong. So I've got E, D, E, E, A, C. Okay. So let's look at starting with A. Weight is only one measure of normal infant development. Was the argument saying that the infant is not normal? Read the story again. If a 3-month-old child weighs only 10 pounds, its weight gain has been below the United States average. That's all the statement said, that the weight gain is below the United States average. A is saying weight is only one measure of normal infant development. Fine, weight is only one measure, but on that measure, the argument is saying that the child is behind the US average, right? So I don't know how A points to the flaw in the reasoning. I'll reject it. I hope the person who was saying A has understood. Some 3-month, did anybody say B? No. Okay, so let me look at C. It is possible for a normal child to weigh 10 pounds at birth. Fine, it is possible for a normal child to be at 10 pounds at birth, but was the argument saying that the child is not normal because he is 10 pounds, or was it just saying that the child is below the national average weight gain, right? So what is the connection between saying that yes, a child can be normal? The passage or the argument was not saying that the child is not normal. All it was saying was that the child's weight gain is below the national average. So C also doesn't point out the error in the story. Vibhuti says B. Some 3-month-old children weigh as much as 17 pounds. Okay, some 3-month children weigh as much as 17 pounds. But this child, who is only 10 pounds, is still below the national average. What is the flaw in the reasoning? You are saying that some children are 17 pounds, which is fine. The average was 12 and 14. So obviously some will be higher than the average, some will be lower than the average, right? Not everybody will be 12 to 14 pounds. So pointing out and saying that some 3-month children are 17 pounds, how did it point to a flaw in the reasoning in the original statement? No, it did not. D. The phrase below average does not necessarily mean insufficient. Correct? It does not mean insufficient. But did the paragraph or the argument say that the child is insufficient? It just said that it is below the national average. Right? So I hope hit pause, rewind and see the rejection of all the options. What is the question and what is it that you are providing, right? What is the challenge given and what is the answer that you're giving to the challenge? The challenge is prove that saying that this child is below the national average weight gain is wrong. And you guys are saying that no, this child is okay, this child is healthy, this child is normal. The paragraph was not saying that the child is not normal or insufficient or abnormal or anything like that. It was just saying that the child's weight gain is below the national average. Now read the paragraph again. Essentially it just leaves out one choice, but it's a very easy question, though now I realize that it's tricky maybe for a lot of you. Read the story again. The average normal infant born in the United States weighs between 12 and 14 pounds at the age of 3 months, right? That means the weight at the age of 3 months, the average weight at the age of 3 months is 12 and 14 pounds. But this story says it's weight gain. Weight gain is how much weight have you acquired in the last 3 months. This story is saying this 10-pound baby, its weight gain has been below the United average. No, its actual weight is below the United States national average, not the weight gain. For all you know, the baby is very high on the weight gain because he was only 2 pound, and in the last 20 days it has come to 8 pounds. So it is like growing really fast, right? I hope you are getting the idea, and it is articulated in option E. Average weight gain is not the same as average weight. Yes, tell me if the choice is making sense. Yes, no, maybe so. Great, so we'll move on. Maybe one more question. So in any such question, I can also now read it backwards. I can read the question stem. What is the question? It says weaken the conclusion, and then I look at what the conclusion is. This is the conclusion. Any fever that develops in a person more than 120 days after that person has moved to a malarial free region is not due to malarial parasite. What is the reason? Because the parasite cannot travel to a new generation, therefore this is what is happening. And there's a background story as well. I've got one answer already. Great. So, meanwhile, let me read it. Red blood cells in which the malarial fever parasite resides are eliminated from a person's body after 120 days. So, red blood cells in the body are out after 120 days, and the malarial fever parasite lives in the red blood cells. Now, because the parasite cannot travel to a new generation of red blood cells, your old red blood cells are rejected and new red blood cells are in, and this malarial parasite cannot go to the new red blood cell, and therefore any fever that develops in a person more than 120 days after the person has moved to a malaria free region is not because of the parasite. This is my story. I hope the steps of the connections and the logic are very, very clear. So now I have an option C. I will evaluate it. Many malarial symptoms other than fever, which can be suppressed with anti-malarial medication, can reappear within 120 days after the medication is discontinued. How is this proving the original argument wrong? The original argument was saying red blood cells will be cleaned off, new red blood cells cannot, the parasite cannot go to the new ones, and therefore after 120 days, if you're showing a fever, it is not because of the malarial parasite. You are giving me a long complex story that some symptoms other than fever are suppressed by malarial medication, reappear within 120 days. Within 120 days, first of all, right? My story was after 120 days. Can reappear within 120 days after the medication is discontinued. Okay, medication was not part of the story at all. The story was about the cleaning of the red blood cell, and saying that if the fever is happening, it is not happening because of the malarial parasite. I don't know how C connects to that at all. So I would put it in the irrelevant category. It doesn't add, it's just a long sentence giving me a completely different story. Unless you can connect it somehow in terms of explain it to me, right? You can also do it later. So I hope you understand this is like a very classical trap, honey trap option. It says a lot, but it doesn't address the question at all. So I've got a D. And look at D. In some cases, the parasite that causes malarial fever travels to cells of the spleen, which are less frequently eliminated, right? So the parasite has gone to the spleen, the red blood cells have cleaned or whatever, recycled, and the parasite is not in the red blood cell, fine, but it is still in the body, and therefore the fever you may have after 120 days could be still because of the malarial parasite, and therefore saying that any fever after 120 days cannot be because of the malarial parasite, no, will become wrong. So D is the right choice for me. Right, so I hope we get the idea. Any other options that we want to look at, they will be mostly ridiculous. The Anopheles mosquito, which is the principal insect carrier of the malarial parasite, has been eradicated in many parts of the world. Totally irrelevant information. Anyway, the question was saying malaria free region, that means the parasite is not there. And once you are in that region, if you're getting the symptom, is not because of, and the story goes on, right? So completely irrelevant data. Half of it is just there to distract you and slow you down as such. So, and you will realize as you progress that most of them are quite ridiculous, right? No connection to the story at all. What did you have to weaken? Keep that in front of your eyes. Any fever that develops in a person more than 120 days cannot be because of the malarial parasite. This was the argument. You want to say, no, it could be because of the malarial parasite. If I remove this, is not due to, and I say is due to the malarial parasite, right? Weakening means going to the opposite side. So remove the not from there, and now this is what you want to support now, that the fever is because of the malarial parasite. And this tells me that the parasite is there in your spleen, and the spleen is not getting recycled like the red blood cells in 120 days. Maybe it's 240 days. That means after the 120th day also, the malarial parasite which is in your spleen in your body comes out and creates another round of fever as such, right? Okay, so okay, so that's it for this mini session. I will continue with the journey. I know some questions from yesterday are also pending. I will not add a new sheet tomorrow and cover both the pending questions tomorrow together, or you can also post it on the Telegram group and discuss it with each other. Maybe you can explain it to each other, right? So that would also be a possibility. In one class, my hairstyle completely goes right. So that's it for this critical thinking session. What we are doing right now for members, and I mean this is out in the open as well, but essentially the focus topic this week is critical thinking, and this is in continuation with previous goals. I'm assuming some vocabulary work has been done, some basic reading has been done, And by doing this 1 week of this CR thing, what I'm trying to say is stick to a topic, do a deep dive. Just like going through 2 sessions and saying, okay, I've done critical thinking is not going to be enough. You really need to start mastering these subjects in a lot of detail. And the way out is essentially just doing it a lot. And my participation is essentially just keep the process going. So I'm doing this 1 week with you, but maybe after a couple of modules, you should do another week with yourself that I want to look at 100 more CR questions. Beg, borrow, steal questions from your friends. Hundreds, thousands are available on the interweb. These questions that I looked at today are all from the GMAT OG, like a slightly older version, but the questions haven't, they still work like as a reasoning tool. So what you need to do is you need to give yourself these like targeted, committed, high intensity, deep dive projects. I mean, if you're thinking of a very high percentile in the exam, if you're doing a formality of learning, then anything is absolutely fine, right? So what we're doing is a critical reasoning and this project. So for the next couple of days also, especially for members, this is going to continue. And they are also recommended to go through the actual course section, which is quite monumental. It's quite big, especially if you're a beginner, you will find it quite hefty and challenging. So that's it. I will see you soon, very soon. Telegram link can be found below the like in the description box below the video. My name is Ankur Suryavanshi. The link for my courses are available below. And this project and whatever I'm doing here and whatever I've been doing for like good 8-10 years has no correlation with TIWYS, formerly Takshzila, in the past Takshzila at all. In fact, in soon enough time, I'm going to be taking a lot of legal action against the clowns, right? So please be very, very clear that I have zero connection with any company known as TIWYS. I don't know why they generally have this tendency to lie a lot. If you need proof for that, I can create like a list of documents which is like a historical history of vulture culture, lying, bullshit, etc. So please be very sure who you are dealing with, right? So reminder, this has zero connection, zero similar values, 10 times the history and commitment to the general community and population compared to whatever the name is, right? So that's it. I will see you really soon in 15 days. Watch the space for 15 days. It will become very, very clear about who's who and who does the work, etc. Right? So, but the journey will continue, ignoring this nonsense. Our journey focuses on CR for the next 2-3 days as well, right? Post or extra questions or stick to a friend. Explore it like a topic anyway. Like find a debate, find an argument between people, and I will share those debates, in fact, on the Telegram link. Very famous. Basically, it's a critical thinking demonstration. Two people argue the existence of God and morality and ethics, etc. Lots of them are available on YouTube and they're quite fantastic. So that is another way of improving your critical thinking skills as such, right? So that's it. Bye.